Welcome to the We're Good podcast, where we are celebrating the everyday brilliance of people working toward a more positive world. If you're looking for the good that's taking place around you, you've come to the right place. Imagine loading science equipment supplies into your car, driving across Northern Virginia, just to bring STEM into schools for hands-on learning. Now, imagine building a $120 million science center from the ground up. This is the story of two science centers, one built in a mall.
It's just a challenge to be a small science center in a big marketplace.
And one about to transform a region. From the Children's Science Center lab to a legacy. Join us for a transformative story today on the We're Good podcast. Welcome back to the We're Good podcast. I'm Lee Ann Necessary Brownlee, your host, and I'm truly excited to be joining you today out on location in Loudoun County at what will soon be the Northern Virginia Science Center. And joining me today are two, I'm just going to say it, full disclosure, friends from a long time and colleagues, Nene, Spivy, and Fajer. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us today. And as some people would say, full circle moment. We've met a long time ago, I have to say, when I was on the Children's Science Center board. And I will have to also give a shout out for my other founder, Tanya LaForce, who's behind the scenes on the camera. She also is on the board. And if people listen to the podcast, they know that's how we met. So I'm so excited to be out here today. Can you tell?
We are T.
You are the CEO of the Northern Virginia Science Center Foundation. Sue, you the Community Programs Manager. And we are going to tell the story of, as I say, the tale of two science centers, because we have one that's in action and we have one that's being built right outside the windows of the office where we're sitting. And I do want to let everybody know, you have to join us on YouTube, everyone, our YouTube channel, because you're going to get to see behind the scenes footage of this amazing science center that's being built. And Nene, you and I met a PTA meeting. I had just moved to the area and I couldn't believe there wasn't a Northern Virginia Science Center. So that's how it starts. Can you just kind of, that's how a lot of people's stories started with this organization.
Yeah. I mean, something was missing. And so many of us recognized that it was a really important part of community, an important part of our education infrastructure, important for families. And we really wanted to fill the gap as, being the region, the largest region really in the United States without a hands-on children's museum or science center. And we knew, wow, our kids are missing out. And back then, a couple decades ago, our kids were really little. and a lot of us,
yes, we've all grown up.
Yes. And a lot of us were having experiences in other cities, or some of us had, grew up in areas with amazing science museums and children's museums. And we knew that our region was missing out. And we were especially concerned about children here who didn't have the ability to travel to Baltimore or Philadelphia to go have these, amazing experiences in places that were designed the way they learn best, this really experiential, immersive, hands-on learning. So we really knew that we needed to fix this, fill this gap. And I think that's just been the rallying cry for a couple of decades of really hard work.
Such a rallying cry and a lot of hard work. We're going to get into that. And I want our audience to stick with us because we're in Loudoun County today, but this is so much bigger than one region. And we're going to tell the story. So I want people to stay tuned. And I learned such a great story about how my friend Sue Fajer found out about the Children's Science Center. We met a few years later when we were hauling Science Center equipment around in our cars, going to family science nights. I have such good memories of those.
Me too.
And Sue, that's where you and I developed our friendship, and we've watched our kids grow up around family science nights. But you told me that your story started long before that.
Yes. So my children were young, 3 and 5, and we used to go to Baltimore and Richmond to the science centers because they loved learning, even at that age. Jacob would say before bed, "What did you learn today?" And we always had to have something in mind, Salo and I, what did we learn today? And Sarah, if we were out, she would see something like a hand dryer in the restroom, and I had to make sure we had 5 extra minutes so she could figure out how it worked. So we loved going to Richmond and Baltimore, but we wanted to be here for science. And when there was an ad in the Washington Family Magazine, to like help with this initiative, I was like, sure. I put my name in the hat for a volunteer role. And I started just collecting emails at, dog shows at the expo and all these other places of people who also wanted a science center right here. And that was in 2007. So this was a long time ago. I naively thought that we would have a science center before they were out of out of elementary school. And here they are and finishing college. But in the whole journey, we learned so much, and we were able to open the lab and then now our science center. So
It's so wonderful. And that kind of brings us around to the very first success, one of the major successes. Family Science Nights were a huge success. I mean, we should paint a picture of it. They're still going on.
yes.
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 So I just remember the excitement, the enthusiasm. And we went to a lot of schools, as you said, Nene, that might not have been able to get this kind of experience. So it was just so much fun to meet so many people. But the energy was always there for a science center. But the first win was the lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I'm really proud of our Museum Without Walls days. Before we opened the Children's Science Center Lab, we were really all volunteer run, and we grew that program to serve about 25,000 people a year. And so it in and of itself, I think, was just an enormous vehicle for delivering the mission while we waited for the harder things to be done, finding space, building space. But yeah, the lab was a really neat time for us. And it was 11 years ago almost. And
So
we
hard to
had,
believe.
yeah, we had just found this land here and sort of were arranging the donation of land here in the sort of Sterling area of Loudoun County. And we also had found this opportunity where there was some space at Fair Oaks Mall. And we were feeling like, wow, do we just focus on building a building and continue being a museum without walls? Or do we have a space, a lab, an experimentation space, for our community and for us to really learn how to be, a science center with walls? We've gotten pretty good at the science center without walls.
That's right. And I just remember the ribbon cutting and all of the excitement. And Sue, I told you, I still walk by at Fair Oaks and I will hear the excitement, the laughter, the learning. It is open for business and going full throttle. Can you share with us, as the community programs manager, the things that are going on at the lab right now?
Sure. It is such an incredible space. And staff members say all the time, they share in the water cooler that we have, the aha moment that they see somebody have every time that they're making an experiment or creating a hovercraft. We have, timed entries where families can come. We also have camps during the summer, field trips during the school year. We also have out in the community events. We do the Family Science Nights, and we will continue to do them because it is lovely going to Lorton and Alexandria and Waterford. We just were there, so it doesn't matter the location. We just want to be in the community and promote the love of science. We just did Earth Day just recently in April.
And you got a shark.
We have Shark Week
Event
coming
coming
up.
up.
That's right, exactly. And birthday parties. So many things going on inside the lab and outside.
And there's a lot of happiness that goes on there. But I think, as you said, Nene, this was always the intention, that the lab was going to be the starting moment, right? That was kind of that was always the idea.
Yeah, it was really an important phase and growing to be the region's science center and being able to have the capacity to serve. I think our challenge that we knew going in with the Children's Science Center Lab is that it's really small. I always joke with my friends in the industry that it's the smallest per capita science center in the United States. Not a title you want to have in an area that serves millions of people. And so we thought that was going to happen, that it was going to be challenging to be in a small space, and it's certainly been the case. We have capacity issues. We have a very, very long wait list of schools that want to have field trips. We have It's just a challenge to be a small science center in a big marketplace. And yet, we would not change a thing. I mean, it has been the most amazing learning experience for us, and building community and learning from the community and finding out what works, what doesn't. So I think that it's been exactly what we wanted it to be. It is a lab. It is a lab for our community to come and experiment and tinker and sort of see a little glimpse of what it's like to have this kind of resource.
Right.
And it's really enabled a lot of organizations and families to get behind the initiative to reach that ultimate vision of providing a world-class science center for our entire region. So I think the lab has just been great in all of its original intent. We have had to operate it a little longer than we thought we would because it's a big effort to get to a big building.
Okay, and that leads right into this. This is the tale of the two science centers, and you have the lab. And Sue, I'm going to circle back with you. So, audience, stay tuned for these success stories that are coming out of the lab. But Nene, you mentioned it. This is a beautiful story, as you shared with me. But with beautiful stories comes struggle. So you had the lab, and you just said, we thought we would be out of it a little sooner. So can you share with us, with our audience, we love the story Field of Dreams, and they say if you build it, they will come. But this is not Hollywood.
Yes, and it's not just a baseball diamond in a field. It's a little harder. I think a lot of us in the early days did not really realize all that's involved in creating such a resource. We had visited these amazing spaces and cities around the country and world, and we thought, wow, we should have this, and it can't be that hard. I mean, they have them, and they're amazing. We can do that too. And we just did not know that there's a lot of details, a lot of challenges to overcome. And I think my favorite quote that I think I shared with you is, great things can be accomplished by people who are too naive to know they're impossible. And I mean, I think that for a long time, this kind of resource was impossible. And there were other organizations that had tried and were not successful. And so, we didn't think that it would be that hard. But in any case,
what was that turning point?
So I think there were several challenges for us, and I think that everyone can appreciate in the DC area. The first was real estate. And it's really hard to find land that's suitable and zoned and meets all your needs. Plus, you want it for free. So that's not easy. That took us a little while to get that land. And then when we had the land secured, we did a feasibility study at that time. Can we raise enough money to put a science center on this property? And the answer was no. So we could not raise enough money privately. We're fairly young nonprofit. And so it's not just about having a great idea. I mean, you have to build this community of support, this network of support. And it takes years, if not decades, to get really the kind of resources around doing such a large project. And so early on at that time, we recognized that we needed to put together a public-private partnership, which is also harder than you would think.
Right.
Yeah. So but we did manage to put together just a fantastic public-private partnership that involves the Commonwealth of Virginia and the state's Science Museum, the Science Museum of Virginia, as well as Loudoun County. And in many ways, that partnership ended up allowing us to do something even bigger than what we had originally thought was possible here at this property. So I think it's a really great story, but it does take time. And when you're working with public partners, they have certain steps they have to take, and they build carefully. This museum is going to be really solid thanks to the Commonwealth of Virginia and how well they tackle construction projects. But it takes more time to get it just right.
Sure. But we are sitting here, and I have to say, I drove up today, and I truthfully I was in awe and amazement. I was like, it's really happening. And I think, as we said, as people are listening, this is going to be much more than just a science center for a few. You call it the museum for all. And Sue, I loved what you told me. You were like, how cool is this that we get to be a part of something bigger in the Commonwealth and actually bigger in the region.
Yes, it's really great because we know what we're doing in the lab and, with the small space that Nene was mentioning. But with this larger science center, we are going to have just such opportunity. We're going to engage the community in so many different ways and not just in a focus of elementary age students, 2 to 12, but also, retirees and researchers and so many different things that, will now be a part of it. So that's pretty exciting.
And of course, Sue, I can't even imagine the stories that are going to come out of this huge, beautiful new science center. But we were talking about you, all of you have already been sowing seeds at the lab, and there's some amazing success stories that are truly coming to fruition, you might say. Can you just share a few of those with us?
Sure, sure. So many can't come to mind, but I'll just share a few. We have Tanush who learned about us through a fifth grade field trip 10 years ago. And he spoke to our youth advisory board parents and said that he remembers it like it was yesterday. His favorite thing was our Power of the City and the Inspiration Hub. And he actually told all these parents that it is what created his love of STEM. And now he is a junior or third year at Purdue University studying aerospace engineering. He stays in touch. There's also a Raj who stays in touch. He's a speaker
I
for.
remember a rock.
Yes.
I just have to say,
Yes,
this is
yes.
great.
Such a great, great person who met us through a family science night that we were talking about in his elementary school. And then fast forward, he was then a volunteer with us. And then he became youth advisory board and youth advisory board member and then a chair. He is one of the reasons we are now a large youth advisory board. He built it up to where it is. But he comes back now. He's an entrepreneur. He started his own business. And he speaks to our cybersecurity initiative internship program that we have. So he comes back and tells them about, how to understand AI, because that's his business, but also how to survive in a professional setting. So, but there are many, many stories like that. And if we have time, I have one more I could share.
Oh, I want you to, because this is a special one.
Yes,
Please
exactly.
do. Because I said we have so many women, young women who
Yes.
learned about hands-on STEM through the Children's Science Center. There was a real emphasis on that too. So
Yes.
tell me your story.
So my daughter Sarah, when she was young, she just loved learning, and she absolutely loved the Science Center. When it first opened, we were the family that nailed the first nail before the construction of the lab, or as it was beginning. But then she would come back, and we were doing the experiments all the time. She loved the citizen science projects that we did. In the summer. And fireflies and, ladybugs and so on. So she went to her librarian in fifth grade in elementary school and I did not know about this and asked if she could do a segment on their morning show where they do, like announcements. And she wanted once a week to do a STEM or science experiment. And the librarian said yes. So for a year, she created these videos. She used materials in our home. She created like the backdrop. She practiced. She set up the camera. All I had to do was press it and make sure nobody walked by the screen or turned off the light. And then she edited them and put them up, through the librarian on this program for a year.
And full circle.
And now she is graduating with a film production degree. And it's pretty exciting that curiosity and that passion was really because the Science Center started it. And then, she was able to continue that curiosity. So.
Yeah. And I love what you say, curiosity, passion, knowledge. So Nene, we're going to take everything, as you said, from the Children's Science Center lab, and it will be a part of this wonderful new Northern Virginia Science Center, right? Let's talk a little bit about what's going to be inside.
Yeah,
We're going to take the lab that's going to kind of be a part of this, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have 5 huge gallery areas, and one of those areas is called the Wonder Gallery. And it really is sort of an homage to the Children's Science Center lab, and that it brings some of the most favorite experiences from the lab to the new Science Center. People love the wind tube and building crafts that fly in the wind tube and experimenting with that. We will have that plus an additional, actually, I think we have 3 different kinds of experiences like that in the Science Center. We have the chain reaction wall that is relatively small at the lab today becomes a giant wall that's like 2 levels and a whole big expanded experience. And so Wonder is amazing, but certainly we have 4 other just huge spaces. The entire lab could sit inside of each of these spaces. And I could probably talk about them all day, but I think the one that is really, I think, just going to amaze people to such an extent is the very first exhibit called Flow. And in the early days, as we were working with the community and asking, what would you like to see in this space? What's special about where we live that we can even highlight? And so we had so many ideas, and a lot of them revolved around water. And so we were like, oh, yeah, so maybe we would have a water gallery. And we're in the design meetings, and everyone's like, well, but there's always these water galleries. What would be a different way to do it? And the design team came back and said, well, there's a lot of things that flow. Water flows, light flows, sound flows, data flows. And so we have an entire exhibition of things that flow. And it's beautiful and it's awe-inspiring. And there's not even just one centerpiece, there's multiple centerpieces. But one experience that we were just talking about in the exhibit fabrication meeting the other day is a 30-foot tall, 10-foot wide vortex. It's like a fog tornado that's upside down. Whoa. And it's obviously flowing, and you get to walk through it. And that's just one example of sort of the awe-inspiring, jaw-dropping, like, wow, STEM is so cool kind of experiences that are going to happen in Flow.
That's so fun. I just love that you're giving us this behind the scenes. I really hope everyone's going to the YouTube, so they're going to be able to see some of the visuals you're providing us, because this is still under construction.
Yeah.
It's still going, but the walls are up. It really is amazing. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, as much as we love the wow and the STEM and the education and the sowing the seeds of all these wonderful things that are happening, this is also, for those listening, very important to our region economically and for the future.
Yes.
Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah.
It's kind of what drives this force too.
Yeah, I think very early on, before STEM was really the common acronym that it is today, 18, 20 years ago, the community was telling us, industry was telling us, you must be focused on STEM. It is so important. It's our lifeblood. We have to do this. And certainly we know that the DC area is, I think I just read the other day, number 3 in tech jobs. And extraordinary still. Even though there's been a lot of pressure on our economy in recent time, there's still a huge need for a focus on that. So we absolutely want to inspire the next generation of scientists and engineers that work in this greater region. We want the kids to grow up here with an amazing science center that they love and want to live here, raise their families here, and work here. And so that, that workforce piece is important, and that community connectivity is important. And so I think that, the economic side of this is great. And it's also has a great benefits economically in terms of bringing people to Northern Virginia, staying in Northern Virginia, going to this great resource along with others. So we're really proud of being a part of, the economic activity that is important for our region.
Yeah. And it's all happening in real time, and we're so excited. I have been asking our guests this, and it's kind of a sad question, but it elicits and tells our listeners why, our audience, the why, and that is, what if the Children's Science Center Lab or the Northern Virginia Science Center never existed? Sue, you and I were talking about that. What would this area be like? And our families.
Yeah, for me, it's really about community, and it's a place to come together at the Children's Science Center Lab and just think about it in the future at the larger Science Center. So yes, some of my closest friends were made through my involvement as a volunteer right here. And I see it in other people. The very first CCI program, which is our cybersecurity initiative program, the first cohort of 20 students, many of them still stay engaged, and it was in 2021. So it is that connection that you make, whether you're like families with little ones, doing the chain reaction wall and meet, or whether it's an intern who's meeting somebody else or a volunteer who's working with us and meets another volunteer. It's these connections that are so very important. And I think they would be missed if we didn't have it.
At you, Nene.
I think about the over 500,000 people that have been served in this probably the last 15 years. And that's a lot of people. And then I think about the fact that in 2 years we'll serve that many here, and just sort of that exponential impact. So not only would we be missing what we have done, but we'd be missing all that potential that's coming so quick. And then you boil it down to who are those people, right? It's I think of some of the grandparents that are dedicated in bringing their grandchildren to the lab on a regular basis. Those experiences that they're having, that they're a part of their grandchildren's lives, and helping them find their passions. And they might not be certainly as STEM focused. They might find other places, but to be able to have these family experiences, the schools we've served, I think it would be a shame not to be able to have reached all these people. Because it's going to be extraordinary, I think, in the future. So it has been really hard. It has been long, but it's so worthwhile. It's the most gratifying work that I know I've ever done. And I think we would all miss what we've built and what we're building.
Yeah. And of course, I want to give a shout out to you, Nene. You've also been doing this since 2005. We didn't mention that, and I just want to give you a shout out for your long-term dedication to this vision. And final question, which is our peel back the curtain, I guess behind the hard hat for you all, is what would be the one thing you'd like to share with people that are listening or watching that makes the Science Center Foundation so special that you wouldn't read about it on the website?
So you want me to start?
Yes.
I would say it would be our volunteers. We couldn't do what we're doing now, and certainly when we are in the new, larger Science Center, without volunteers. And these volunteers are teenagers who need hours, and they can come once or twice, to teenagers who are with us for 2 years on the Youth Advisory Board. They are, retirees. They are teachers in the summer. We have, just so many corporate volunteers that come to us like in a group, but also in the community. All of our programs, every single family science night cannot be done without volunteers, either from the school or from our organization. We do a program in the summer where we have a constant one regular volunteer, Sandy, who brings her grandchildren even to the libraries, because they're in libraries, so that she could volunteer with us. And this is her 3rd summer in that program. So yeah, the volunteers are amazing.
And as you said, the volunteers become a family. I was a volunteer.
Yes, I was a volunteer.
And you were a volunteer. It all becomes a big family, and there will be more need for volunteers. So we do want to say that, not less, more.
Right.
Yes.
But
yes.
Nene, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think my first thought is so similar to Sue's, so I'll say that quickly, and I'll add, maybe something new to that thought. I just love all of the community elements of this, and I think people don't realize there's so many people that have been a part of this. There's so many, and I feel like a lot of times like, oh, Nene, it's your vision. Look what you've done. And I'm like, but wait, there are so many people, and it didn't start with just me. It started with a group of community leaders that just really cared. And so I think the heart of community, I would love for our website to be able to demonstrate that, but it probably is hard to fully see it unless you experience it. And we want everyone to be a part of this in whatever way they can, whether it is simply, being a visitor and enjoying these experiences with their family or their school, but also, getting involved if they have, time. We love that. I'll put in a plug for weekday morning volunteers. We have big field trips. It takes a lot of adults to corral all of our students. But I think the other neat thing you might not, know about the new Science Center is that we adjoin this beautiful Stream Valley parkland, and it's I think pushing about 200 acres all combined on this side and the other side of the Broad Run Stream Valley. And it's a really great opportunity for learning outside. So we'll have amazing science experiences inside, and we'll have amazing experiences outside. We also have one of the largest great blue heron rookeries on this parkland property. So we'll have experiences in the Science Center to help you get a better idea of these amazing creatures that are our neighbors all across the region. So I think there's a lot of things behind the curtain. I can't wait for everybody to walk in and find them all. I mean, over 100 amazing experiences inside the Science Center.
I love the herons. I love all about the nature that's going on, but we can't end the episode without talking about this is a museum for all.
It is. It is. It's been really from the very earliest days, our dream that children across this region can be a school bus ride away from this. Not all of our schools can rent a motor coach to go to the Franklin Institute like my elementary school did. So we are just so excited because we finally will have the capacity to serve all of our Title I schools here in Northern Virginia. That's over 100 Title I elementary schools, all of which we've served over the last decade, but we'd like to do it all in 1 year, every year.
Big dreams, big goals, but it's happening.
Yes.
Well, thank you for the peek behind the curtain. It's more than a peek, but it's definitely a wonderful look back and forward. I'm so excited for everything that's going on out here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Be sure to share this with someone that you really care about because of all that's going on out here, because there's going to be so much. They will come. You will come. It's going to be so exciting. Thanks so much for joining us today. And as we like to say, we're good and you're good, and you can all make a difference.